Hello and welcome to the Rogers TV COVID-19 show. I'm Carol Merton, and before I welcome our guests today to the program, I want to share some thoughts with you. For those of you who watch the program, you know I like to do a bit of an intro before the guests get to fill us in on the topics that they're bringing forward. We are hopeful that we will be able to move forward to having restrictions lifted after the next few weeks. Meanwhile, the Public Health Unit reminds us that physical activity is important for everyone's well-being. As the weather improves, children are naturally drawn to outdoor activities, including parks and playground equipment. These are wonderful ways to remain active, and their safety from potential hazards, not only from COVID-19, but also from the sun, mosquitoes, and ticks, is important. While outdoor recreation is strongly encouraged, the Public Health Unit reminds us that we must continue to wear a mask properly, use sun hats, use sunscreen, and apply an appropriate bug repellent to help keep everyone in the family safe while outside. There is good news regarding the decline in the number of new cases of COVID-19 in Grey Bruce. The Public Health Unit could not have done this without the help of the community, and they need us to keep up the good work. We can all agree that we want to make this lockdown the very last one that we have to go through, with no more extensions. We are looking forward to the lifting of the restrictions, but in the meantime, please stay the course by following the 3 W's and 2 A's recommended by the Grey Bruce Health Unit. Wash your hands, watch your distance, wear a mask, avoid travel unless absolutely necessary, and avoid gatherings. This journey has been long, and we are all very, very weary. The sacrifices we continue to make each and every day will bring all of us closer to the finish line. Let's make this difference together. Thank you to the community, and now I'd like to also welcome and thank my guests today. So I have 2 guests on the program. I have Steve Furness, who is Manager of Economic Development, and Jacinda Rudolph, who is the Economic Development Officer for Grey County. Do I have your titles right? Sometimes in this COVID, people just change titles. So have I got it right? And if I don't, please correct me.
No, that's correct.
Close
I'm one
enough.
of the economic
good.
development
Yeah,
Yep.
excellent. Well, thank you both very, very much for being on the program. And I know you've got lots of information to share because, my goodness, things are changing so quickly these days, and hopefully for the better. So who'd like to go first and tell us basically an overview of what you've been up to and where you're headed?
What do you think? Should we?
You can tag team it.
All right,
I'll just
I'll go
sub-team.
first. I'll go first. And, you know, just to follow on your introduction, it has been, you know, like businesses and like people, you know, pre-pandemic, we had a whole plan that we were going to implement, and then the pandemic hit and hit it very hard, and you know, we had to pivot like everyone else, but probably not as much as our business community. And I think a real, you know, overall the different waves and through all the challenges and restrictions, I think the business community and the public have done a really good job. And part of our role in that was to pivot and to help businesses understand what the new rules were as they were changing, and to help the public understand that as well. And we're still doing that. I mean, we're talking about our last meeting, Jacinda, we were trying to figure out what messages we would get out to the public. We got a long weekend coming up, and yet businesses are still, and others restricted from movement. But on the other hand, if you're, you know, locally, you know, access to trails is still there. So it is a confusing message sometimes, but it's one that we have to try and make, and it changes. So that's one of the roles we've played. But I think overall, you know, we've seen resiliency in our business community and them trying to pivot and understand and do the right thing by their customers, their employees, and public health. So What would you agree with that, Jacinda? I mean, I should
Yeah.
say Jacinda's been managing the 1-800 line and has been hearing and talking on an individual basis to our business community. So I think her perspective is.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, Steve. I do agree. At the beginning, it was a little bit of chaos, I have to say. Businesses unsure what to do and trying to understand the restrictions, and then also looking for those resources. And that's what that business line was about, was letting me or our colleagues dig up more information and spend that time instead of the employer looking, or the business looking to spend all that time when they're trying to make that pivot or keep their business running. So I have to say the calls have really diminished in the past couple of months. And I feel like business owners have kind of grasped the chaos a little bit, in the sense that they understand the restrictions. They're now trying to go with the flow and trying to just keep their business running. There are still some supports out there. There's one significant support that's out there right now currently, and that's the tourism grant with the small business, Ontario Small Business Grant, and that's for travel and tourism businesses who were not eligible originally in the first round back in January. With regards to the small business grant. So that's out there. And if anyone needs any information, please, reach out to us, and I can find you more information, and I can get you the right connections.
Excellent.
Yeah, so I mean, that's been a big part of what we've been trying to do. We have a resiliency map, outdoor patios, and again, as the restrictions are lifted, as we hopefully come out of this in the next couple weeks, it's not going to all lift at once, and so it's trying to understand how that's going to help our businesses and our consumers. And it's a challenging message on the tourism side, because we're used to promoting our green spaces and all the good things we have, and yet we're not able to really do that. And so, but we're getting ready for that when that time comes. So it's been a challenge, but I would say for us, it's really working with the business community and understanding what their needs are. And so, having said that, is it fair to say we see the light at the end of the tunnel? I mean, the public's getting vaccinated at a tremendous rate, and the processes have been put in place, and I think there's been lots of cooperation. So we hold the line and continue on. We should be able to see things gradually get better. And having said that, from an entrepreneurial point of view, and maybe it's because people have been at home cooped up a lot, but our Small Business Enterprise Center, who supports startups, both from a student perspective and from just a general public, has been inundated with consultations and applications, tremendous number of people looking to start a small business. And maybe, that could be a number of reasons. Maybe they want to stay in the area. Maybe they don't want to go back to employment, just reflecting on that. But it's good to see. And while some of our businesses have struggled and even some have closed, that entrepreneurial spirit is very, very strong and thriving. And we don't necessarily see it happening in any one cluster. I was just looking at a slide from our Catapult, which is another small business support group that is helping those businesses that are already established, so helping them accelerate. And the sectors are all over, are quite diverse. So the entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well, and we hope to pivot and come into 2021 and the rest of 2022 as we go forward with a strong investment. So I think that leads us to another area that we're working on in Gray, and that's our investment strategy. Sometimes communities call this a foreign direct investment strategy, and while big centers focus on that, I'm not so much concerned about foreign investment as I am just any investment. So that investment can come from Toronto, it can come from Hamilton, it can come from anywhere. And frankly, with the rising housing prices, we're seeing a lot of interest in our region that we hadn't seen in the past. And part of that is the economics are now making sense for some developers. And part of it is opportunity. You're seeing demand and population we're starting to grow right across Grey County. So lots of opportunity. Where population grows, you generally see commercial retail grow after that. But we're still also seeing inquiries from industrial. We had an inquiry the other day, 10 acres, needed it in a hurry, service land. And so that's good to see. That means we're still on the radar. So anything you want to add to that, Jacinda?
Well, we're doing so many projects. One thing I wanted to say, Carol, I just think it's really important with regards to the workforce. We have a lot of jobs out there. We do have a lot of jobs, and we have more jobs because of the closures and reopening and having to let people go and then reopen. So there are still a lot of jobs, and businesses are still expanding, but we don't have the people to fill them. So that is, a concern. How do we get more people, whether it's people from the outside the area, to come in or not? And fortunately, we have actually quite a few people that have moved from the GTA and that are migrating to the rural communities and coming to Grey County. And so if we can leverage those individuals and get them into the local workforce and or hire people, because, working from home is pretty common now, right? So maybe there are businesses that are outside our area that can still, or employees that can still work for Grey County businesses, but they're staying in their, original home that's outside the area, but they're providing that workforce for here, just working from home. So that's a little bit different. We haven't really been experiencing that too much before the pandemic. So yeah.
So I just wanted to ask a little bit more about that. So, Steve, you had mentioned, a growth in entrepreneurs. Would you say that this is a whole new culture of entrepreneurial activity incorporating working from home as well? Are you seeing something that maybe 10 years ago you wouldn't have seen?
Well, I think, entrepreneurship has always been a strong theme in our region. I do think with the increased in-migration or the population increase, people are getting a little more creative. The internet is now allowing people to do things. But I also think the pandemic has caused or allowed people to kind of reflect on what it is they really want. And I suspect, and I don't know, just anecdotal, that people are, rethinking whether they want to go back to a commuting and whether they want to be in a big urban center. We've always been, as a region, a nice place to live. So 10 years ago, to your point about 10 years ago, I would get the question, well, I'd love to live up there, but there's no jobs that pay me well enough for me to stay. Well, that's changed. I mean, we do have jobs, and we now have people who can have portable jobs where they can live up here and continue to work, or get creative. We've always said that, create your own job through an entrepreneurship. And so I don't know that it's new. I would say there seems to be more interest, and I think that's just a sign of the times. If that makes sense. I don't know if, Jacinda, you talked to some of these entrepreneurs. What is your sense?
No, I think you're right, Steve. I think there's kind of a mind shift. Is that the word? But just kind of reevaluating your goals and also for people that were let go because businesses have closed, it does give them almost an incentive or a push to maybe go with that idea that they were thinking of, because now they don't have a job. They have some time to be able to put effort into building a new business. So I could see that being an incentive or almost a push.
So the types of jobs that are available, is there a particular sector that is especially needing, or what would you say for anyone who might be watching thinking, gee, maybe I need a job?
Well, I have to say healthcare is always the top of our list. It's been for the past couple of years, and with the past 2 job fairs, healthcare was at the top. Hospitality and tourism, with the situation, they are struggling the most, I would say, to find the workforce that they need. and manufacturing and construction have always been the top sectors, and even more so during the pandemic. So if you're looking for a job in that industry, there are plenty. Trades also has come up. I've spoken to quite a few businesses that have said, I've spent the past year trying to find someone to fill this position. We need an electrician, or we need a plumber, or we need someone that is within the trades. So those are pretty significant industries.
We've heard about jobs and the people's need to have full-time employment so they don't have to go from one job to another to make ends meet, and also benefits. Are you seeing anything around those areas that may encourage people to consider jobs here? Or is it too soon to say?
I think, sorry, go ahead, Steve, if you have something.
I was just going to say that the two job boards that we promote the most, I think, is the YMCA Employment Board. And the last meeting I was chatting with Linda, she said the majority of the jobs on the YMCA Employment Board were full-time. And that was something you saw, I think, Jacinda, at the first job fair, and to the point where, and you can talk about this, they had a second job fair for youth, but the other website we promote is the 4-County Labor Market Board. Mm-hmm. Do you remember exactly what that's called?
It's called connect2jobs.ca. Two with the number 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just on that note, those, from if any employers listening and they're not sure how to promote the workforce they need, if they were to post on the YMCA job board, which is a free service, it also can connect them with YMCA services to support them, but also that information is aggregated or aggregated into the Connect to Job site. So instead of, not that, I'm not saying don't use Indeed, but I'm saying that this is a free option. And then their job will be visible on Connect to Jobs. And Connect to Jobs has a lot of different features, and I would encourage everybody to take a look, whether you're an employer or a job seeker.
Excellent. So people are moving from the GTA, I hear, to our area. How does that affect you and the services you provide? I think we're in for some interesting changes, potentially different approach. We've encouraged people to consider us, but now they're definitely moving up. What do you see for us in the future?
Well, I do see a lot more supports needed, promoting of our area. If you're new to the area, maybe you didn't know that we had amazing waterfalls and amazing trails and so on. So we'll need some of those supports with any municipalities. Yeah. Steve, are there any others that you can think of?
Well, I think it changes. We're seeing, 10 years ago, I always go back because I'm an old guy. I've been doing this for too long. We used to try and say, come on up, you'd sort of see. And now we've got population growth. We've got new Stats Canada numbers know that we are growing, and not just in one area like Blue Mountain used to be the one area that was always growing, but it's happening right across the board. And what that's done is driven up housing prices and rental prices. And, from an investment side, it sends a positive message to builders and investors to come and invest, because the market conditions are improving and demand is there. On the other side, though, your affordability side is becoming challenged. And so one of the things that we see a greater need on is assistance with housing, attainable housing, and just rental units, like more rental units and more rental units that people can afford. Because certainly, I don't know of anyone's wages that have doubled in 5 years, but that's what's happened to housing in 5 years. And so that presents for Grey County Economic Development and for Grey County Council a whole set of different challenges that we didn't used to deal with. We used to just, in fact, 5 years ago, our vacancy rate in rental market was around 7%, and it plummeted to like 1% very, very quickly. And so, Jacinda can expand on this. If you're a new employer and you're trying to attract new employees and they say to you, like, I can't even find a place listed to even go and look at. So that becomes a different set of challenges for us. And it's not something that, you just don't build houses overnight. So, and frankly, it's not a new problem in Ontario. It's a new problem for us, though, in the Grey Bruce area.
Jacinda, did you want to add to that at all?
No, just that I think that employers are also shifting to get more involved with their hiring. So not just getting them hiring the staff, also supporting them and maybe trying to help them find that housing they need so that they can retain the staff. We're seeing that a lot. Employers are really going out of their comfort zone and trying to provide almost what's it called, full circle service, I guess.
Yeah.
So that is a little bit of a shift, and we're trying to support employers in doing that and seeing and kind of reviewing other opportunities that exist that they could tap into.
So there's two other items that you had mentioned you'd like to talk about. So one is the summer company and starter programs, and also ensuring welcoming communities and coordinating supports for newcomers who may also have skills to bring to this area, as well as being part of our community. So I'll pass it over to both of you.
Well, just Steve kind of mentioned the Business Enterprise Center and the two programs that are currently underway, and just how people are still starting those businesses and looking for supports, and youth as well are looking to with the summer company program. Yeah. So they've just been awarded, both groups, they've just been awarded recently, and they're in the process of going through the startup of their business. With regards to welcoming communities, I have to say that when we talk about workforce, newcomers can be one of that, can address some of those needs. It could be one of the components to addressing the workforce. It's not the only answer, but it is, they are a good resource. So in doing that, and if we're promoting the area to immigrants to, relocate here or consider coming here, we have to consider those wraparound supports again. The settlement services, we now have settlement services that run out of the YMCA, which is fantastic. They're funded by IRCC, and then we also have the Grey Bruce Local Immigration Partnership. So that's indirect service, and that basically works together with all the other service providers in the area and organizations and employers to be able to make sure that there's coordination, collaboration in the initiatives around welcoming communities. So YMCA is direct service to newcomers, and then Grey Bruce Local Immigration Partnership helps the organizations that provide that service to them.
So, Steve, where do you see the next few months going? We're going to be optimistic around opening up, but you did say you didn't anticipate it would open up immediately. It's going to be a graduated. So how do you see, I know you don't have a crystal ball, but do your best.
Well, I think if the vaccination rate and the one of the key indicators obviously is the healthcare system, as things open up and the restrictions lift and we become more businesses can operate and people can do more things, certainly our tourism sector really needs to kind of expand or open to the degree that they can. And I think the summer will be very important. Last year, things opened up right around the May long weekend, and many of our seasonal businesses, which weren't opened, had very much almost a regular type season, and then the things closed down, but they were closing down because of seasonality. I'm not sure they're going to have the same opening like they did last year, but it's very important. I mean, this is getting on. It's been more than a year, and certain businesses in certain sectors have really taken the brunt of the pandemic, and particularly tourism and bricks and mortar retail. So for some of these businesses, there's been support from the government and the ability to take on more debt, but at some level, you can only take on a certain amount of debt and still recover. So it's going to be really important for them to pivot, which they've been doing, and then to continue that and open up and maximize those opportunities. Some businesses have thrived because the demand for their services has taken off and others have not. And so it's just, again, another change, businesses responding to change, which that's what businesses do all the time. They are always pivoting and always changing to terms of market conditions. I don't know that they've been challenged to the degree that a pandemic really takes out their walk-in traffic and they have to go online. I think a lot of it will stay, the online portion, and we'll just see how they run forward. But in some sectors, I think things have been moving along, depending on the business, as if, they haven't been really impacted much. So that's good. Our economy is still vibrant in that respect. So I do think things are going to really, there's a lot of pent-up demand. Construction is we're hearing delays in building new homes and from investors. So I think, on that point, when you talk about labor pool and keeping, that's going to be the big challenge for us. And I would just note that if you're looking for employment or you're looking for skills upgrades, and we can talk about this a little later, but Georgian College now is offering a number of skilled trades that they were allowed to offer and had permission to do, and that'll be opening up further. So if you're really interested in a trade, you might want to check out Georgian College in Owen Sound and what they're offering, because a lot of it aligns directly with what the need is, whether it's healthcare or the construction trades.
And that's a great way to involve a community resource as well. We've mentioned the Y and for the immigration services, but certainly a wonderful way to involve. I know we've got 1 minute left. What I'm hearing from businesses is that they may have a mixed model of operation coming up. Are you hearing that as well, where some will probably continue with a mixture of walk-in and remote? So in the last little bit of the program, are you hearing the same thing?
I'm hearing that from restaurants for sure. Restaurants that could do eat-in, but they're keeping it to takeout. And I think they're just doing that right now until they feel secure enough that things aren't going to change, because it is a big shift when they make those restrictions. And actually, I think they're just about to announce today the new provincial, framework that they're going along. It was alluded that they're dropping the color-coded regions, and so that'll happen today, I believe.
Excellent. And on that note, we've run out of time. I hope you both will come back on the program. You'll always have so much information to share. Thank you. And thank you to our viewing audience for joining us today. Please join us again to learn more about services and programs available to you and your family. Take care, stay safe, care for each other. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Call the Rogers TV viewer response line. Email us or connect with us on social media.
Now you can enjoy the Amazon Prime Video app on Ignite TV. Just say Amazon Prime Video into your Ignite voice remote and watch Amazon originals like